Beloved within the Seventh-day Adventist Church, this is a very urgent message regarding the health message. Found in Daniel chapter 1 and verse 8. It states, "But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself." Now God brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, "I fear my lord the king, who have appointed you meat and your drink. But why should he see your faces worse liking than the children which are of your sort? Then shall you make me endanger my head to the king." Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, Prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us posts to eat and water to drinks. Then let our countenance be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat. And as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So he consented to them in this matter, and proved them 10 days. Verse 15. At the end of the 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat and the wine which they drank, and gave them pulse. As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. So, brothers and sisters in the Adventist Church, the test for this last days is appetite. Appetite is the first test. Appetite was the first test that Christ had within the wilderness of temptation. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and Satan came to him and said, "If thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be turned into bread." And he said, and Christ answered Satan back with the answer, that he should live only by the word, not by bread alone, but by the word of God shall man live. Appetite was a test in the Garden of Eden. Satan said to Eve, "God does know, and the day you eat of this fruit, you shall be wise as God himself, and that you shall not surely die." She ate the fruit. She did not die immediately. Adam and Eve did not die immediately. They died almost 1,000 years later, and they did not become wise as God himself. They just had the knowledge of good and evil, and died eventually, with which they would have lived forever if they only would have eaten of the tree of life. So, beloved within the Seventh-day Adventist Church, it is very key that we in these last days follow the health message. No dairy, no flesh, no milk, no butter, no eggs, no flesh, no tobacco, no alcohol, no cheese, no caffeine, no, all these animal byproducts are not good for the body because they excite the animal-like passions of the body. They excite the animal-like propensities of the body. So the best diet for man in these last days is fruits, nuts, grains, and vegetables found in Genesis 1:29. That's the original diet. That was a diet given before the flood, and that was to the antediluvians that followed God, and the diet given to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. That's the best diet. And the diet that Daniel had was pulse, as beans, or legumes, and vegetables, and fruits, and water. That's the best diet for man. That's the diet where you can interpret visions and dreams and be cutting in science and wisdom and all knowledge. That's the diet where you can memorize many different languages at one time. That is the best diet, a vegetarian, plant-based diet, beloved. We need to have that diet in these last days if we're going to overcome sin. We need to have that diet if we're going to be able to trust in God's promises for these last days. That is the only diet we need in these last days in order to be translated and not taste death. Free from grease, free from being cooked in oil. The more cooked food we have, the more we shorten our lives. When food is cooked and processed and sold at fast food restaurants and chips and all these different things, these diets are not healthy for us. Moses Mason, Jeremiah Davis, these men had it right when they talked about a plant-based diet, a diet free from grease and oil and dairy, beloved. Patriarchs and prophets tells us clearly, very, very, very clearly, that God permitted flesh in Genesis 9 verse 3 after the flood because it would cut short man's life and because there was no vegetation on the earth at that time to really feed man. So Noah and his descendants ate flesh after the flood. But before the flood it was not so because the vegetation was copious. But vegetation has grown back, she said, so we need to go on a plant-based diet. We are now in the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary, 7 Adventist Christians. And because of that, we must get rid of flesh and dairy. You are not in the most holy place if you're eating a flesh and dairy diet. You are in the outer court. And believe me, beloved, when Jesus Christ comes back the second time, you do not, when Jesus Christ comes back the second time, you do not want to be in the outer court. Because if you're in the outer court, you're lost. If you're in the outer court when Jesus Christ comes back the second time, you're lost, beloved. You're going to wake up in the second resurrection, not the special resurrection. We as 7 Adventist Christians that die these days under the first, second, and third angel's message and that other angel, Revelation chapter 18, verse 1-4, will resurrect in the special resurrection. But if you die eating flesh and dancing in church and watching movies and wearing jewelry and all these kind of ungodly things, you're going to wake up in the second resurrection. You can burn in the fire the last great day. You don't want that. You want to wake up in the special resurrection. The resurrection of the righteous that when you are translated with the 144,000. The resurrection, the Ellen White and Jane Andrews and Haskell will resurrect in. Beloved, stay faithful to God. Be faithful to God. Read the Bible and the Spirit of Prophecy. Read counsel on diets and foods, counsel on health, ministry. Read the chapter called Flesh is Food, use of remedies, liquor trafficking prohibition, ministry of the home, in ministry of healing, choice and preparation of the home. Read these wonderful chapters. Read medical ministry. Read counsel on diets and foods, a chapter called proteins, the chapter called flesh. Read these chapters, beloved, because the health message is the right arm of the gospel, the right arm of the first, second, and third angel's message, beloved. You see these ministers eating flesh, these ordained pastors within the 7 Adventist church that eat flesh. Ellen White says these ministers who eat flesh should not be paid from the tithe. They should not receive tithe dollar for their ministry. They cannot be trusted, Ellen White says, to make right decisions when eating flesh. God bless you. Maranatha.